Hello, dear friends. Welcome. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whichever way you're watching this live or on demand. What a blessing to be with you today. We are here to study the book Courage by several spirit authors by the mediumship of Francisco Xavier. What a blessing to be here today. And today we'll be talking about chapter 5 by the Spirit Emmanuel. He titled this chapter The Presence of Light. Who does not like to be in the presence of light, right? The presence of light. So let's see what Emmanuel has for us this morning. He says, if you place love at the time that God reserves for you, you will never fall under the influence of tedium or despondency, because your hours will turn into the pleasure of serving. If you put love into affections that the Lord allows you to have, you will never suffer ingratitude or disillusion, because you will transform the actual spirit into a vessel of abnegation and comprehension, gathering from yourself happiness so as to make the happiness of those we love. If you cultivate love while carrying out which divine providence has attributed to you, you will never feel fatigue or disillusion, because the work will appear to be a fountain of joy as your happiness, because of your happiness of being useful. If you apply love to the verbal resources that eternal wisdom confers to you, you will never find yourself making unhappy statements, because your words will be transformed into light and blessing within all that you express. If you spread love where laws of life have placed you, you will never find yourself in a state of imbalance, because your influence will give serenity and hope, so guaranteeing harmony and tranquility wherever you may be. If you keep love in your heart, the divine work of the universe, you'll never be lost in darkness, because you have begun the process of gradually converting your own soul into light. Unquote, by the Spirit Emmanuel. Isn't that beautiful? What a beautiful message. The presence of light. So he's saying we can have our own light. When we're keeping love in our heart, we'll never be lost in darkness, because we've begun the process of gradually converting our own soul into light. And we talked about enlightened spirits, right? The words we use, enlightened spirits. When we talk about the book Voltaire came back by Brother Jacob, he talks about when he discarnated, all the spirits had light, inner light, had their own light, and he still, even though he was very successful and very prominent in the spiritist movement, he discarnated and he still had to develop that light that comes from how do you gradually convert your soul into light? We gradually become better. We gradually become kinder, nicer, more compassionate, more understanding, indulgent. When things come to us, the trials, the difficulties, the challenges, we remove the negative thought with a good one, as Juana says. Each of every reincarnation, each and every moment, minute by minute, we can slowly grow, slowly transform. I'm not saying it's easy, I'm saying it's doable. See what Paul did in 30 years, right? He didn't start from the point of pure bliss. He did a lot of wrongs in the name of keeping the law. In this case, the law of Moses, the law of God, the way he knew best. But then he met Jesus at the road to Damascus. And instead of looking back and feeling guilty, he looked forward, he trusted God, and he was able to slowly convert his own soul into light, so much so that we want to be like Paul, those followers he had, how many good spirits received him after he discarnated. So how do we gradually convert our soul into light, as Emmanuel says at the end? By doing what he talked about in the paragraph. So place love at the time that God reserves to us. He says if you do that, you never fall under the influence of tedium, boredom. We talked about boredom last week. Because when we put love at the time that God has for us in this life, our hours will turn into the pleasure of serving. And that's something we have to mold into the brains of those who are reincarnating now, the children under our care. They're here to serve, not to be served. You are here to serve, and that's how we grow. The pleasure of serving. When we serve, when we do the good, we feel good. There's an innate biological mechanism inside of you that does that, that delivers good feeling hormones inside of you that you go back and seek to serve more. But we need to, it's like a muscle. Serving is like a muscle. You don't go to the gym once and you're done forever in your life. You have to do it every day, minute by minute. When you put love into the affections that the Lord allow you to have, or those, our family members, our friends, our acquaintances, we'll never suffer ingratitude or disillusion, because we will transform the actual spirit into a vessel of abnegation and comprehension. If we cultivate love while carrying out that which divine providence has attributed to you, when we cultivate love, doing the things that are within my circle of influence, within my duty, within my daily activities to do, your profession, how you participate in the world, grocery shopping, going to the mail, serving, teaching, doing whatever you do. You will never feel fatigue or disillusion when we do the things we're supposed to do in this life, because you have a task. I have a task. I say you, all of you. We have tasks that are just for us. In this entire infinite universe, God has reserved a mission just for you. That's in the book Right Path by Emmanuel that we have studied in the past. So in this world, wherever you are, there is something you can do for others. When we do that thing, our purpose with joy, we don't feel fatigue of disillusion, he says, because the work will appear to be a fountain of joy, regardless of the work that we do, because all work is blessed. Remember the law of labor? Labor is and work is any useful activity. So it all goes together. This is a beautiful scientific aspect of Spiritism. As a health scientist, I can tell you, we build upon each other's discoveries and teachings, and that's how I see this. We go to the Spirit's book, the source. We even go to the New Testament, the Old Testament, right? Because it builds on each other. And here we say, work will appear to be a fountain of joy because of your happiness of being useful. When we're not useful, when we only do things for ourselves, when we're selfish, when we're lazy, we're not going to be happy. We're going to find ourselves in the afterlife unhappy, with the unhappy companions that helped us stay not useful and lazy. That's in the books of André Luiz. Go read. Actually, Heaven and Hell. Heaven and Hell book, there's an example. I wish I would remember the name of the spirit right now. But it's a case of a woman who didn't do much when she was alive. So she reports to the spirit to Kardec that she's bored. She didn't take care of her own kids because she had maids. She didn't take care of the house because they had servants. So she finds herself in the spiritual realm bored. Because we don't, with all due respect to the people who do think of this way, because the spirit is we respect all religions. But we don't die and become angels and go rest to the side of God immediately. Wherever we are today, if we discarnate today, right after hopefully I finish in the recording, because we never know when it's our time. I will be me in the afterlife with all the good and all that's still to improve. So are you. So we don't convert into angels, grow our wings and fly off to eternity to play harps. Although I bet there are divine celestial worlds where nature sounds like harp music, classical music, soothing, elevated music, not the music we're using on the earth, because this is just the beginning. Think about the most beautiful classical music. You know, from the books of André Louis, he starts feeling nature, hearing nature. Everything has its melody. And we can only imagine what it would be to be in a divine world, in a place where superior spirits gather, and what kind of beauty comes from there. This is one important one for the times of today, because everybody has a thing to say, even if we're not expert on anything. We always have an opinion. We always make a comment. So it's important to notice what we say. He says, if you apply love to the verbal resources that eternal wisdom confers on you, that God allows us to have, because God could have made us mute. Now you can speak. You have to communicate in a different way. Right? He says, if you apply love to the verbal resources that you have, what kind of verbal resources do we have? These is a verbal resource. I'm speaking to you and you're hearing it. Some of you are reading because there's captioning. So if we apply love to the words we utter, he says, you never find yourself making unhappy statements. How many times we make unhappy statements? We comment on things we're not supposed to. We ask the questions we're not supposed to know out of curiosity. He says, because your words will be transformed into light and blessing within all that you express. Think of Divaldo Franco. Everything he says is uplifting. Chico Xavier, Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa. Everything that comes out of their mouths is positive, is uplifting, makes you feel good. Everybody wants to be around them. That's what we want to do. That's why God sent those missionaries, so we can have a goalpost. We have a goal to go. And he says, last but not least, I want to read the last paragraph for us. If you keep love in your heart, the divine work of the universe, you'll never be lost in darkness, because you have begun the process of gradually converting your own soul into light. So let's work this week. Next week, we're going to be talking about hope with May. But between now and then, let's slowly, gradually convert our souls into light, watching what we say, what we do, how we do our jobs, how we care for others, how we carry ourselves out in the world. We can all be vessels to fulfill God's will in this planet and to allow ourselves to grow in the process. Deal? So God willing, I'll be back with you next week with another study of the book Courage by very spirit authors through the mediumship of Francisco Cândido Xavier. Until then, dear friends, stay well, stay safe, take care of someone else and yourself, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.